It had been empty for 41 years. The Maddox house stood at the end of a gravel path no longer marked on any map, nestled deep in the Appalachian hills, where mist moved like breath and trees leaned in like eavesdroppers. Locals never talked about it, not anymore. Just a silent understanding. You don't go past the iron gate. You don't walk the old orchard path. You don't look up at the third floor window. Because sometimes, if the wind caught right, you could still hear chairs scraping across the dining room floor. In 2024, a young couple, Jeremy and Elise Halter, bought the house for $17,000. Cash, sight unseen, just a photograph and a brief note in the real estate contract. Do not remove original wallpaper. They laughed it off. The house needed everything: plumbing, electricity, a new roof. But they weren't afraid. Elise was pregnant. Jeremy was optimistic. They wanted peace. They wanted a place to raise their child away from the city. And above all, they wanted to forget their past. For a few weeks, it went well. They painted, cleaned, fixed windows. Their son, Micah, 6 years old, wandered happily through the hallways, naming rooms. That's the music room. That's the soup closet. That's where the Whisper Man stands. They thought it was imagination until he stopped sleeping in his room. One night, Elise found Micah curled in the hallway at 2:15 a.m., face pale, arms over his ears. "He talks too loud," the boy whispered. "He's stuck in the wall behind the flowers." "What flowers, sweetheart?" Micah pointed to the wallpaper. It was the original paper from 1949, faded green, patterned with yellow vines and tiny red flowers, all curling like grasping hands. Elise had always hated it. Jeremy wanted to tear it down, but the clause in the deed said no. They didn't believe Micah. Not yet. Until he drew a picture the next morning. Crayons, 4 figures, Mom, Dad, Micah, and one more, tall, long arms, no face, standing inside the wall. That same day, Jeremy heard a noise upstairs, slow scratching, like someone dragging a nail down wood. He followed it to the second-floor hallway, stared at the wallpaper, and something inside it moved. Only a ripple, only for a second, but it left behind a handprint. Pressed out from underneath, they called in a contractor. He scanned the walls. Nothing. No rats, no pipes, no gaps. But when he peeled back a corner of the wallpaper in Micah's room, he found something burned into the plaster behind it. Something written in ash. 4 words. "I never moved out." That night, Micah told Elise that the man in the wall knew her name now, and the wallpaper began to peel curl by curl, as if the house was smiling. The scratching didn't stop. After the handprint in the plaster, Jeremy tried to laugh it off. Bad insulation, he said. Moisture does weird things. But the house had other plans. The wallpaper began curling back on its own, slowly, like it was peeling itself open. Elise would press it flat each morning. By nightfall, it would be loose again. Behind the paper, the walls weren't empty. There were lines, scratches, not random, some shallow, some deep. All of them forming rows like tally marks. And something else. Breath. They could hear it now. Soft, constant, not wind, not the settling of the house. Inhale, pause, exhale. Always coming from the walls. The electrician said the wires were fine. The plumber found no leaks. But something about the air was wrong. "It's heavy in here," the man muttered, sweating in a 50-degree room. "It's like the house don't like me in it." Micah stopped talking altogether. He would sit on the staircase for hours, staring down the main hall. Once, Elise asked what he was waiting for. He said, "She said dinner's not ready yet." "Who, baby?" "The family that lives here." "There's no one else here." Micah just smiled faintly. "They're underneath. They're always eating." At night, Elise started waking at 3:11 a.m. Always the same time, always to the same sound. Chairs dragging on hardwood, forks clinking on plates, muffled chewing. But the dining room was empty. The food they left out began to rot faster than it should, meat growing black overnight, fruit pulsing with flies even in sealed containers. And then came the door problem. Some doors refused to stay closed. Others locked themselves. The basement door, once nailed shut, was now slightly ajar every morning, no matter how many times Jeremy sealed it. And always, the air moved strangely, like the house was shifting around them. One night, Elise stood in the hallway and held her breath. Just to be sure, she felt it. The house exhaled, a warm breath, on her neck. She turned, but nothing was there, only the hallway mirror. And in the reflection, behind her shoulder, a chair rocking back and forth by itself. They tried to leave, packed bags, loaded the car, but the car wouldn't start. The battery was fine, engine fine, but the key wouldn't turn. The mechanic later said, "It's like something jammed it," from inside the ignition. That night, Jeremy heard whispering. Not in the walls, from the vents. He crawled under the house with a flashlight, checked the ductwork. Inside the main air return, written in charcoal, "Come downstairs. We're still eating." The house was alive now, not haunted, breathing, watching, learning, and it had already made room for one more family. It started with a question Elise couldn't shake. Why was the wallpaper never supposed to be removed? Jeremy said it was just superstition, a weird legal clause. But Elise felt something deeper, something intentional. So while Jeremy took Micah to town, Elise called the county archives. They had a box on the Maddox house. Only one. She picked it up herself. A cardboard cube with old paper dust and a yellowed label. Property file 0117, Maddox/439 Orchard Hollows. Inside were 7 missing persons reports, different years, same property. 1954, 1985, 2015, always families, always with one child under 10, all gone, no signs of forced entry, no signs of struggle. In each case, neighbors reported the same things leading up to the disappearances. Children talking to someone invisible, wallpaper peeling mysteriously, the sound of footsteps in the dining room at night. And always, always, the same smell, wood smoke, even with no fire burning. There was one photo tucked in the bottom of the file. Black and white, faded. A boy around 6, standing in front of floral wallpaper, staring dead at the camera. Except he had no eyes, just dark hollows, like someone had scratched the photo, but the surface wasn't damaged. It was just blank. Elise took it home and showed it to Micah. He pointed at it instantly. "That's Jacob," he said. "Who's Jacob?" "He lives in the wallpaper. He said I can have his room when he leaves." The next day, Jeremy found drawings stuffed into Micah's closet. Dozens. Crayons. All the same thing. The Maddox house. Over and over, but drawn from the outside. From high in the trees, from under the ground, from behind the walls, and always, inside one window, a black scribble with red crayon eyes. When Jeremy confronted Micah, the boy whispered, "They drew through me." Who? The family that never left. That night, Elise had a dream. She was walking through the house, but the walls were made of flesh, pulsing, breathing. She passed the dining room, and inside sat 4 people with their backs turned. She reached out to touch one, and it turned its head all the way around. It had no face, only a flat surface covered in wallpaper. The same flowers from Micah's room. She woke up screaming. The next morning, Micah was gone. They found him in the attic, curled up next to a rotted trunk full of old family photos. Photos of people who'd lived there across decades. Except one of them showed Elise as a little girl. Same eyes, same scar on the chin, but the photo was dated 1974. Elise wasn't born until 1991. The realization hit her like ice. She'd been here before. She'd forgotten. And the house never had. She looked at the wallpaper in Micah's room again. Really looked. The flowers weren't flowers. They were faces, twisted, hidden in vine work, hundreds of them. Screaming, Micah said that night, "They're waiting for us to stay." "Who is?" "Everyone." "Everyone who what?" Micah looked at her with distant eyes. "Everyone who was eaten." Elise didn't tell her mother much, just that Micah hadn't been sleeping, that she and Jeremy needed help, that maybe, just maybe, something was wrong with the house. Her mother, Meredith, arrived the next day. Small, quiet, soft-spoken, a retired school librarian now slowly slipping into dementia. She hadn't recognized Elise over the phone for months, didn't remember birthdays, often mistook Micah for Elise's brother, who died young. But the moment she stepped into the Maddox house, everything changed. Meredith walked through the front door and froze, her eyes focused, sharp, lucid. Her mouth twitched into something that wasn't a smile. "You brought us back," she said. "Mom, what did you say?" Meredith turned slowly to Elise. "You shouldn't have returned. Not with the boy. Not while it's still hungry." She walked the house like she'd lived there, knew which floorboard would squeak, which doors would stick, which rooms to avoid. In the kitchen, she stopped and ran her hand over a crack in the tile. "That's where the screaming came through last time." "Last time? Mom, you've never been here." Meredith looked at her, long, hard, hollow-eyed. "You don't remember. That's how it protects you. It eats what hurts. What does? The house. Later that evening, Meredith sat at the kitchen table, hands folded, eyes shut. Then she began to speak names. Dozens of them. Names no one had told her. Full names, dates of birth, causes of death. Everyone matched the old files Elise found. She listed the Maddoxes, the Carvers, the Reeds, the Halsteads. Then she said, and Elise Marie Crowley, born October 3rd, 1991, returned home, 2024. Crowley? Elise whispered. That's not our last name. Meredith smiled, sad, exhausted. It was, before we changed it, before we ran. You don't remember, but I do. Why would we ever live here? Meredith didn't answer. She just looked up, toward the ceiling. Because we were chosen. That night, Meredith went missing. They found her in the attic, standing barefoot in a circle of soot, her hands red with old wallpaper ink. She had carved something into the floor with her wedding ring. 6 words. The boy belongs to the house. Micah was behind her, sitting cross-legged, silent, calm. In front of him, dozens of crayon drawings. But these weren't his. They were old, yellowed, dated 1982, signed Jacob Maddox. Drawings of a house, burning, screaming, melting, and inside a child's face pressed against the wallpaper. His eyes scratched out. Jeremy tried to lift Meredith. She didn't move. She looked at Micah, then at Elise, and said, "He's remembering too fast. If he remembers everything, we'll never leave again." Leave what? The family. What family? Meredith looked up toward the ceiling beams. The one inside the walls. Suddenly, the wallpaper in the attic began to curl, not slowly, violently, peeling itself in strips as if tearing away skin. Behind it, wooden panels covered in names, etched deep like tally marks. Thousands of them. And among them, carved in childlike handwriting, Micah Halter, May 2024. Elise screamed. Jeremy dragged Meredith from the attic. Micah didn't move. He just whispered, "They said I don't have to leave anymore." They packed the car before sunrise. No talking, no arguing, just shaking hands. Pale faces, silent panic. Elise carried Micah, who wouldn't open his eyes. Jeremy loaded the last box. Meredith, distant now, barely aware, hummed to herself. The walls remember. The walls remember. They didn't look back. They didn't lock the doors. They didn't need to. The house was done pretending. The road out of Orchard Hollow wound through the trees like a maze, but today it twisted wrong. Each curve too familiar, each landmark, repeating. The third time they passed the rotting scarecrow at the base of the same hill, Jeremy slammed on the brakes. "We're not getting out," he whispered. Elise said, voice cracking. "We've been driving in a loop." They turned back, took another path. Same scarecrow. Same blackbird watching them from the fence post. Same scent of burnt wood in the wind. Micah opened his eyes and smiled. "We can't leave," he whispered. "We're already inside." Inside what? The house. Back at the Maddox house, the wallpaper had fully peeled. Every room exposed bone. Underneath, not wood, not stone. Teeth, faces, hands, scratching upward. The walls pulsed with breath. The ceilings groaned like lungs. In the dining room, the table was already set. 4 plates, 4 chairs, roast beef, mashed potatoes, gravy. Perfect, fresh, steaming. Jeremy threw up in the hallway. Meredith walked straight to the table, sat down, picked up her fork. Elise stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, staring at the scene. Micah crawled into one of the chairs, folded his hands, and said, "They said this is the part where we remember." "Remember what?" Elise asked. "Who we were before we got eaten." Suddenly, her head pulsed with memories that weren't hers. She saw her own hands, smaller, drawing with crayons on the attic floor. A voice whispering from inside the wall. Jacob. She saw Meredith, younger, terrified, dragging her from the house one night. Then, nothing. Just dark, for 33 years, until they returned. Elise fell to her knees. Her voice came out as someone else's. "We left before the house could finish. We never really got away." Behind her, the door slammed shut, nailed itself from the inside, and from the wallpaper, or what was left of it, a tall, skinless figure stepped forward, all red eyes and white teeth. It didn't chase. It just smiled. "Welcome back, Elise. We've set your place." That night, no one screamed, no one fought, no one ran. The Halters sat down, ate in silence, except Micah. He hummed softly as he chewed. Upstairs, the attic wallpaper began to mend itself. Fresh vines, fresh flowers, a blank space in the middle, waiting for a new name. 3 weeks later, a for sale sign appeared out front. Cheap price, cash only. A line at the bottom. Original wallpaper must not be removed.